FedWatch is a macro podcast, true to Bitcoin's rebel nature. In each episode, we question mainstream and Bitcoin narratives by examining current events in macro from across the globe, with an emphasis on central banks and currencies. Watch this episode on YouTube or Rumble. Listen to the episode here, Apple, Spotify, Google Libsyn. In this episode, CK and I cover a large chunk of the ongoing macro news. First, we covered New York Federal Reserve President John Williams' speech on inflation, then the UN report demanding central banks change course, and finally the OPEC decision to cut quotas by 2 million barrels per day, MBD. Charts and Bitcoin sentiment each week. CK and I lead off with a Bitcoin chart to center our macro conversation from this perspective. The daily chart from this week shows a slight bullish curl as it approaches the diagonal trend line. Several indicators are bullish, including more significant weekly and monthly signals. The Bitcoin daily chart showing bullish indicators on the weekly chart, the first ever weekly bullish divergence has locked in. This does not mean we can't have further downside. If you look at the red columns on the chart below that signify weekly bearish divergences, you can see they often come in multiples. However, at the first sign of a weekly divergence, it does signal that we are very close to the ultimate reversal. The sentiment in the Bitcoin ecosystem has started to shift from fear to being slightly more positive. If the price can capitalize here and break out, we could experience a sizable shift into bullish momentum. The first ever weekly bullish divergence has locked in this section. CK and I also discuss a possible Bitcoin decoupling from stocks. The correlation has been quite high recently, but Bitcoin does offer some fundamentally different properties. As CK points out, Bitcoin is not weakened by being exposed to a specific company's revenues in a credit crisis. Where companies might face harsh credit conditions, Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin actually benefits from a flight away from credit risk. Most of it revolved around a funny definition of inflation, which Williams calls the inflation onion. The first layer of this onion is commodity prices, the second layer is prices of products like appliances and vehicles. At the root is supply and demand and underlying inflation. No mention at all of money printing or debasement. I think what he intends to portray is that inflation works its way through the economy. Prices of commodities trickle inward to products, in this case, which in turn trickle inward to things like rents and labor. UN tells central banks to halt rate hikes this week saw the release of the United Nations Annual Trade and Development Report, in which they described the current status of the global economy and provided policy recommendations. Overall, I was surprised by the cogent nature of the report, getting many things right. They even used terms like a superhysteresis and shadow banking, ideas we've been talking about on FedWatch for years. We go through several quotes right out of the report and find ourselves agreeing with them multiple times. It is only when the UN comes to make recommendations that they lose us. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.